Let's turn our focus now on Eskom after Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan has restructured the Eskom board, naming Mpho Makwana as its new chairman. The government has been under pressure to improve the country's worsening energy crisis and impact on the economy. To discuss this further, I am joined now by Jacob Maroga, former Eskom CEO, Professor Sampson Mamphweli, the director of the Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies at Stellenbosch University, as well as Kganki Matabane, Black Business Council Chief Executive Officer. Gentlemen, very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. With news just in points to load shedding stage 3 continuing up until Thursday. There's a new board in place. Expectations are high. What is your reading of the board members and the impact that they may or may not have on the country's current situation? If I may start with you, Mr. Maroga.
Well, firstly, let's say that I think it's good that finally a fully constituted board has been appointed. It's been long that the outgoing board has been limping 6 members out of 13 positions. So that is good. The personalities on the board, I mean, they've got very good CVs. Some of them have operated at a high level in various institutions in South Africa, so that is good. However, I think it is important to say the mere changing of the board does not necessarily solve the entire problem. We need to, to understand that they also need to familiarize themselves with the issues. And at the end of the day, the board is oversight. They don't actually execute. They are an oversight. And therefore, what will they then do to make sure that the executive environment creates stability within Eskom? And also, my view is also that what should also be looked at is the whole governance ecosystem at Eskom, but more generally at state-owned enterprises. Because it's not the first time where we've had good personalities being appointed at boards, including Eskom, but the entire governance situation does not necessarily change. So it is important that we also relook at how the governance ecosystem within our state-owned enterprises operate to create an environment where both boards and executive management can do what is necessary to stabilize the entities.
Absolutely. Professor Mamphweli, perhaps weighing in on this, Mr. Maroga speaks about a board that was previously limping. Now we know that all 13 positions have been filled. What's your take on some of the expectations?
Yeah, I agree 100% with Mr. Maroga there. The board was limping. We now have a new board. Their role is basically to provide oversight. What I think they should be doing now is we have a number of strategies and plans that are geared towards solving the load shedding problem. I can count up to 5 strategies. The Eskom Just Energy Transition Strategy, Eskom Unbundling that Pravin Gordhan announced at some point, the President's Plan, the IRP 2019, which is being revised now. Eskom has got the Maintenance Plan. So all those, in my view, need to be consolidated into an Eskom strategy that should then be implemented going forward. And once the board assists in terms of consolidation of some of these strategies, they can then look at the final kind of product in terms of the strategies that need to be implemented going forward. And then look at the governance issues that Mr. Maroga was talking about. At this point in time, we can still use the current governance systems where they can then look at the strategy, the new strategy, and say, what are the qualities of the management that we need to implement this particular strategy going forward. And then they will then have to look at the Eskom management from the CEO, let me say the top three management people, the CEO, the CFO, and the COO, and then look at whether these people fit the new strategy. And if they fit in terms of the new strategy, then they can keep them. But if they are not fitting well in terms of the new strategy, then they can ask them to leave. But that's a very decision that needs to be carefully managed and carefully looked into, because we don't have to run away from proper governance systems, even when we are under pressure to solve the problems. So they might as well look at those top three and say, well, these people are the people who can assist us going forward, so let's keep them because they will be part of some of these strategies. They understand the problems. They can assist us as the board, as the new board, to understand some of the challenges, because some of us are coming in as new people. Then they can then keep them. But at the same time, they can look at them and say, no. In terms of our new strategy going forward, that consolidated all these strategies that are in place, we require new or different skill sets. And then they can then make that an informed kind of a decision.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Perhaps let me bring in Mr. Matabane here. We know that a few days ago, perhaps a week ago, the Black Business Council reiterated calls for Andre de Ruyter to be fired. And as Professor Mamphweli speaks about the top three management, as matters stand, given the announcement by Minister Pravin Gordhan, the Eskom's executive leadership stays in its current composition. What is your take now with the additional changes with the board, and your sentiment on Andre de Ruyter's CEO? Have you changed your mind?
Good afternoon, Paul, the viewers, Prof. and Maroga. Firstly, we would like to welcome the new board. We were of the view that they've got credible people with the gravitas, experience, skills, and we hope they'll have the courage to hold management to account. Because I think our issue with the previous board has been calling for them to be removed, has been that they are unable to hold management to account, because when we've got management that is employed to provide electricity to South Africans and they are not providing electricity to South Africans and you do nothing about that, it means you are not holding them to account. So hopefully they will do that. Obviously, we'll give them time to do a proper analysis, and we're confident that they'll do the right thing. As far as the announcement of the CEO, the CFO, and others, I think it's important that we understand the process. The process is that the board, which is non-executive members, they are appointed by the shareholder, which is the minister. And the executive directors, in this case, the CEO and the CFO, those are appointed by the board. So there was no way that the minister was going to announce the removal of the CEO and the CEO. Remember, there's a case that the previous, not the previous, but that I think the president lost, because when the president announced the previous board, he also announced that they must go and fire someone, and then he lost the case. So that's a neighbor relations issue. We need to follow the process as we have, and we were comforted by the fact that both the minister and the president did indicate that the board has been given all the powers to look at everything, including management. So our call for de Ruyter to leave and the CEO to leave is still there, because in the past 3 years or so that they've been there, the situation, instead of improving or stabilizing, the situation has worsened. The hopes that we had that we were going to recover the economy is basically gone out of the window. So nothing has changed. We are still of the view that those two are incompetent. They shouldn't be there in the first place.
Right. I'm going to ask you, gentlemen, to stay with us as we continue this conversation, speaking on the dynamics at Eskom and, of course, the newly installed board. We will continue the conversation in just a moment. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us as we continue to have our discussion around Eskom. I'm joined by former Eskom CEO Jacob Maroga, Professor Sampson, Mamphweli, the Director of the Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies at Stellenbosch University, as well as Kganki Matabane, Black Business Council Chief Executive Officer. Perhaps, Professor Mamphweli, let me come to you. You spoke about some of the plans that are in place, detailing a whole list of plans that have already been brought out. But the problem lies with the process of implementation, with the clear plan being laid out. Where do the actual problems at Eskom lie? I mean, yesterday we heard President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking again about Eskom, apologizing once again and saying that the problems emanate from the past, but he believes that the board will resolve ending the rolling blackouts. He says the board's mandate is to end the rolling blackouts. How will this process even begin in considering where the problems lie when it comes to implementation? The plans are all there, as you made mention of.
So various problems have been identified, and we know the history of the problem and the fact that the government at some point delayed in terms of bringing in new generation capacity. They did their best in trying to bring in new generation capacity in the form of Medupi and Kusile. We had challenges there. The IRP 2010, they tried to implement it to a certain extent. It was revised in 2019. We now have the IRP 2019. That is supposed to give us new generation capacity in line with ministerial determination. Minister Mantashe has been implementing that plan, but I would say government is basically lagging behind in terms of solving the actual problem. The biggest challenge that we have, as we already know, is that the energy availability factor of the coal fleet has been declining. If you look at the numbers, and Mr. Maroga will also assist us in this, from 2011, it's been going down, and I think it's 2017 and 2018 where it went a little bit up, and then it went on a free fall again. Whether there is someone who is doing something wrong at Eskom, that's a discussion for another day, because we still have the same. I don't necessarily believe in putting the blame on particular individuals in this particular case, because it's not going to assist us solving the problem. However, if you look at the president's plan, for which I'm part of one of the work streams that's working on some of the work that is supposed to feed into that plan so that it can be properly implemented. If you look at that plan and the various interventions, the revision of the IRP, the opening up of the electricity market and all that, one can easily make a projection that in the next 2 years or so, we would have this kind of a problem behind us. That's if the implementation is properly done. And looking at the fact that we now have a board that looks very competent, someone like Mpho has been at Eskom before. He's got so much experience at Eskom and all that. We all agree that the board is very competent. So in my view, we need to give the board space to try and understand the various problems, because there are problems that are internal that we won't necessarily know. So they need to get in there and understand those problems and link them to the various strategies, and then consolidate the various strategies, and then implement a one strategy going forward for Eskom. I think that is what is required at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me take the question to Mr. Maroga. In looking at the issues, I mean, it's almost pointless to point fingers at this stage where it's seemingly just going around in circles. And the problems are throughout Eskom's entire structure, just watching from the outside. Have the right solutions been deployed? I mean, there's a list of plans, but are they the right solutions?
Yes, I think we should not go all over the place trying to find what the problem is. I agree with some of the things that Prof says, but where I don't agree is going to the fact that the government delayed. The issue is there's more than enough capacity in the system. The Mpho Makwana has come on stream, some of the units, yes, not fully completed, but quite a lot of units of Mpho Makwana in the system. We also have a renewable energy of about 6,000 megawatts in the system. The demand is lower than it was probably, at least since 2009. The issue at play, and I think we need to call it what it is that the energy availability factor from 2018 has collapsed. We were around 78 around 2018. We're now in the mid-50s. So it's the performance of the fleet. It's got nothing to do with Mbeki and the decisions of 2004. It's got to do with the performance of the current fleet. Now, what we need to understand is, how and what are the issues that needs to be done to reverse this collapse of the fleet. And what I'm pleased with is at least Mr. Gordhan has been clear that the new board has been given a mandate that as per the shareholder compact, the energy availability factor must be 75 and above, because once you do that, you end all load shedding. And I think that should be a singular occupation of the board to the entire management structure of Eskom to say, to end load shedding as per the minister's direction, as per the presidential direction, that this board has been given a mandate to end load shedding. And that to happen, the energy availability factor must be above 75%. And the management then must produce plans to do exactly that. And they must say, what do they need? What must happen for the current fleet to operate above 75%? For me, the other plans of additional capacity are important as we move forward in the energy mix of South Africa, in dealing with the issues of emissions and diversity of supply. But the current problem must be solved by improving the current fleet. And for me, that's the single most important occupation of the board and the management.
Absolutely. Looking at Mr. Matabane, with the efforts to improve the current fleet that need to be resolved, on the other end, the economy is suffering, business is suffering, and you've expressed dismay and frustration over the slow process. Talk to us about those frustrations, and what it essentially means for business in South Africa and progress that needs to be made, especially on the back of COVID-19?
Yes, Mpho, I think before I go there, let me deal with the issue of saying we must not blame anyone. And I think that's why we're where we are, because we don't call a spade a spade. There are people who are paid every month to run Eskom. And those people, the energy availability factor declined while they were there. So we can't say there's no one who must bear the responsibility. Those people failed. The facts are there. We were not manufacturing anything. And if we don't hold people accountable, then we're failing ourselves. So those people have not performed. It's a fact. The facts are there. We don't need any a full analysis that wastes time. The fact that they haven't performed, and those are the people who are guilty for where we are, and those are the people who are killing our economy. Our economy was trying to recover, and now with what we have, it's not going to recover. And maybe just to take you back to the National Development Plan, from where small businesses, as far as the small business is concerned, the National Development Plan said if we want to put some dent into the unemployment rate in South Africa, by 2030 we must create 11 million jobs. And now we're sitting in 2022, we have not done much. And out of those 11 million jobs, 90% of them are supposed to come from small business. But small business cannot afford generators, small business cannot afford solars. They are fully and 100% reliant on Eskom. And Eskom is failing. So we must basically forget about economic recovery, forget about those jobs. And then just to give you an example, we've got funeral parlors that are collapsing. We've got internet cafes that are collapsing. We've got hairdressers that are collapsing. We've got people who are running, for example, a mechanical type of where they're fixing cars. They're collapsing because when there's no electricity, they for probably around 4 hours, the employees are not working, but they are being paid. So the costs are actually escalating. So people are being paid for doing nothing. What is likely to happen, instead of creating jobs, employers are going to start retrenching, because you can't just pay people for doing nothing. It's not their fault, yes, but Eskom for us is the highest and the biggest risk that we're facing. They are actually introducing policy uncertainty, because there are not many investors, both local and international, who are going to come to South Africa and invest, not knowing where the electricity is going to come from. And then remember, the CEO of Eskom is the one who, when he joined, he said, no, bear with us, give me 18 months, I'll stabilize the system. 18 months passed. This year alone, we have experienced the highest load shedding that we've ever seen in the history of Eskom. So it's important that we hold people accountable, and they deserve the amount that they've been paid.
Mr. Matabane, you were speaking about the issue of accountability. In moving past the blame game, I wasn't implying that there should be no accountability, but really just saying that the problem is here. It's a crisis, an energy crisis at its worst, and the solutions are needed rather urgently. A board has been placed. They have a 3-year term. The expectations are high at the moment. In going back, perhaps, Mr. Maroga, let me take the question to you. In going back and pointing the fingers at those who need to be held accountable, what sort of backlash should follow for those who may have added in bringing the Eskom to its knees and exacerbating the situation in South Africa, as well as looking to perhaps a priority list when it comes to fixing the problem? You spoke about a government ecosystem, the plans that have been put in place marrying each other to ensure that some solutions come, and these solutions are ones that are reliable.
Yes, I think what the new board should be clear about is what is their mandate in terms of their accountability to the shareholder. And as I've indicated, one of the important things is what is called the energy availability factor, which is already in the shareholder compact that talks to a figure of about 75% and above. And that is the figure that if it's achieved, indeed with the current demand, we should be able to deal with, to move away from load shedding. And it's not a new figure. And the question is going to be, how has the management or how has Eskom performed against that figure? And what are the reasons why we haven't performed? And therefore, if there's any accountability that must be taken, who must take the accountability? And the next thing is, what is then the plan going forward to make sure that we achieve that target? What I must also say is that, what I'm critical about in terms of the current management is that they have become too focused on, for me, solutions that are irrelevant to the current problem. For instance, in dealing with the issue of the generation, the current performance of the current fleet, they've spent a lot of time talking about, renewable energy, IPPs, which in the long term are part of the mix, but they are nothing near the solutions that we need to deal with. And also the previous board gave a posture of abandoning the current coal fleet, almost saying, the current coal fleet based on emissions and based on age and performance is no longer a solution for our future energy provision. Therefore, the focus should be, renewables and IPPs. I think that posture is very unfortunate, and it also creates an environment within Eskom where people don't necessarily see the top performance of the current fleet as a priority. So for me, that must change. And if this has to be accountability, let it be. But the focus should be, what are the key things that needs to be done to make sure that the current fleet operate at the optimum level? We get out of load shedding as quickly as possible, and then we can talk about the future of the power sector in a stable environment where we can actually have good discussions about energy mix and also lessons. I mean, there are lessons to be learned from what is happening in Europe, and I think you can move forward in planning your future power system without taking serious consideration of the lessons that we're seeing in Europe, because they've made some fundamental mistakes that we need to begin to learn from and put into our thinking as we go forward.
And Professor, in learning from the mistakes and looking at matters of accountability and where the fingers should be pointing and then what happens thereafter, the problems that adequately need to be identified, one would think that should be a huge focal point of the new board.
Yes, I agree fully. The new board needs to first understand the problems, and I agree, with Mr. Maroga on the energy availability factor. It's the biggest problem that we're facing at the moment. I still go back to 2010 when the energy availability factor was above 85%, and if you look at the graphs from there. Up to 2016, it's been on a free fall. We need to also look at those kind of that kind of a situation and say what happened then, and then from 2018, like you said, it's been going down drastically. So to me, it points to a system that has been degrading over time. It improved at a certain point in time. We need to learn lessons from there as well to say what happened when it improved. Was it because of the work that was done previously, or was it because of the work that was done at that particular point in time? So we need to look at that as well. Now, coming to the lessons from, and everything needs to be done in line with the plan. And I need to be very clear when it comes to accountability. I'm not sitting here saying people shouldn't be accountable. People must be accountable. We must follow proper governance systems to ensure that they get accountable. We must be evidence-based. We must go deep into the particular problems. So the board will have to go deep into the energy availability factor challenges that we have at Eskom, some of which we don't know. They are not in the public domain, some of which the Eskom executives have been mentioning in the public domain. So they need to first understand that and then either make the current executives accountable or they can take a decision to say, well, these people have failed, or there were matters that were beyond their control that led to some of this kind of a thing. But the main thing is we need to be evidence-based. We need to be data-driven. We need to look at what happened in the past. We need to look at what happened in the future, what's happening in the future. We have the energy plan, and which is the integrated resource plan that talks to our energy mix. So every time when I talk, I always tell people it's not about the battle between renewables and coal and all these other things. It's about the energy mix that keeps the lights on and the economy going. So that I agree with Mr. Maroga on that in terms of fixing the current coal fleet that can be fixed, so that we can keep the lights on. So that should be done. I don't disagree with that, and it's, by the way, part of the government plan as indicated, and it's also part of the president's plan. So it boils down to what I was saying in terms of consolidating all the plans and then ensuring that all these plans come to one strategy, and then making a determination from there to say who can implement this better, or who can implement this best in terms of the Eskom management, and then a decision can be taken from there. We know that the president, part of the president's plan will kick in the next few months or so, and it also calls for, and this is something that is in the public domain, it also calls for maintenance of the existing fleet. Government needs, or Eskom needs, to get some money to maintain some of the current fleet. So all those things need to happen. But looking forward, the revision of the IRP and the implementation of new generation capacity should not be delayed. Where if I have to now go back to history, in 2003, the integrated resource, the white paper in renewable energy identified the problem that we will have shortage in generation capacity. I appreciate the fact that it did not predict the fact that we will have the energy availability factor where it is today. And we so looking at those and some of the government interventions, which is why I said, after that caution, government came on board and started bringing in new generation capacity, and we know what happened with the new generation capacity coming on board. We know what happened with the implementation of the IRP 2010 and the revision of the IRP 2019, which government is implementing very well in my view. So in terms of the governance, the accountability, I'm saying people must be accountable, but let us give this board a chance to go deep and look into this energy availability factor and many other problems, and then be able to say to the people, here you have failed, here you must be accountable to the nation, or you must leave us so that we can get the right people to do the job.
And in closing with Mr. Matabane, in the list of problems that you've spoken to, you've mentioned that Eskom is the highest and the biggest risk we're facing as a country, and of course business. What do you believe to be some of the solutions?
Yes, we have made a proposal to government, to the president, and I think Prof and Maroga have covered that. So to try and simplify it, it's like you've got a a 5-bedroom hotel, if you want to call it a hotel, but only one room is being used, and then the other rooms are not used. And instead of fixing the other 4 rooms, you are busy trying to go and build another hotel. That's basically what's happening in Eskom. The management, they will tell you, no, if you don't get renewable energy, you'll get to stage 15 and all those things threatening us. As there are people who are paying taxes to pay their salaries. And that is uncalled for. I think those are the things that I think the new board needs to start looking at. So when you have a 5-bedroom hotel and only one room works, as a sensible person, you focus on fixing the 4. And the other things you can do them later once all the 5 rooms are available. And then that is the problem that we have at the moment. The focus for all people involved should be saying, we've got load shedding. What is the solution for load shedding? Let's fix load shedding. Once you fix load shedding, then you can do the other things. Hence we've been calling these solutions by lobbyists that renewable energy is a cherry on top. You cannot have a cherry on top of a cake that is not there. We currently don't have the cake, so you can't put the cherry on top of nothing. And that is what has to be the solution. And everyone else, the board, management, government, everyone else concerned should be focusing on saying, let's solve the issue of Eskom and make sure that all the available megawatts, all the megawatts that are supposed to be available are available. We've got again, to try and simplify it, we've got around 20,000 megawatts that is basically not there, cannot be used because of various reasons. But we've got a CEO who blames everyone else and not blame himself. That shows you the person is not taking accountability, is finding a place where you can blame. You can't have a person like that and have confidence that they will fix the problem. Because when you have to fix the problem, you must then say, I have a problem, I need solutions, but I'm part of the problem because I'm being paid every month. My money is not delayed every month. My salary is not delayed. I get paid every month, but there's no electricity. So hence, the new board must make sure that the electricity availability factor is non-negotiable. It's 75%. If you don't achieve 75%, you're out. And we can get other people who can make it 75%. We do have skills in South Africa. We've got people who can do this. So we're wishing the new board good luck, but we know they got there knowing the problems and they'll do the right thing.
Let me thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Thanking you there, Kganki Matabane, Black Business Council, from the Black Business Council. Of course, also on the panel, Jacob Maroga, former Eskom CEO, Professor Sampson, Mamphweli, the Director of the Center for Renewable and Sustainable Energy Studies at the University of Stellenbosch, and, of course, Mr. Matabane, the Black Business Council Chief Executive Officer. Thank you so much for your time. It brings us